Welcome to the Bayou City Soccer Podcast. Whether inside or outside the loop, we are talking everything soccer in Houston. Y'all ready? Let's get it. Houston, welcome to another episode of the Bayou City Soccer Podcast. My name is Rudy Segura. Long time no see. It's been a little bit over a month since our last recording here specifically for the Houston Dynamo podcast, as Manny and Diego have been running dash. Hopefully they're able to take a break themselves, but I am joined by Manny Olivares, host of the Orange and Blueprints podcast. Manny, I hope you can hear me. Hopefully it's not lagging too much here, but man, how are you? How's your Thanksgiving, man?
No, it's been good. It's been good. No, I hear you perfectly well. So it's really well. Just trying to cruise off this off season. Feel like this off season is too long, but we're doing great.
Yeah, man, talk about long off season for sure. Obviously, lots of news for the Houston Dash that I know you guys will touch on eventually as well. And Jay Hurtado, how are you? He said, "Yep, podcast is back. We are back at least for this week. We had been. I was telling Manny before we started recording that we were planning to stream last week, and it just kind of didn't happen. And then we were supposed to stream yesterday because usually that's when we stream and that's when myself and Chris are able to make it happen. And we had to bump it. And because of we find ourselves bumping it, Chris is not able to make it right now. Hopefully, he's listening to us. And he said if we were running late, he may join. So I was also hoping to have El Jefe Dustin Richardson on here. Um, we never really did like a full on roundtable, and I don't think it's necessarily important by any means, Manny, at this point of the season, because I felt like, if we're being honest, it just felt like it was Groundhog Day the whole entire Houston Dynamo season, man. It was just the
Yeah.
same old, in the sense of kind of like what's happening and just the gradual changes, if you want to be specific with that, man.
Yeah, I think it was a really hard season to predict because so many things happen. Of course, not injuries, but people getting moved on, people unexpectedly moved on, and it was like you're just starting like mostly when we did our predictions, we were having some key players here, and then like it happened like new players were signed, and then players were injured, people were so it was like so that and it was just very hard to determine like how the season was. The season panned out how it did, and it was like, well, I feel like it is one of those years you can't have like a good season every year, like back to back playoffs, and you were hoping back to back playoffs, but it is what it is. It's just you just hope you learn your lessons. Hope you, I know Pat Onstad mentioned a lot this year. He learned a lot of lessons that he wish he fixed early in the season, and so we'll see if next season he learns from it and see how the team improves.
Yeah, and funny enough, with the season still playing on, now we know exactly what the final is here this weekend between Vancouver. I was about to say Vancouver FC and pull up, you know. No, I'm kidding. But Vancouver Whitecaps taking on Inter Miami. An interesting final altogether. And we won't spend a lot of time talking about that final since it doesn't really pertain to Houston, obviously. But interesting for sure, man. But let's go ahead, Manny. I had a couple topics that, again, we were trying to talk about them last week, but I think a lot of them are still very fresh. That there's nothing necessarily that won't be important to touch on. But big news that came out was that finally the schedule being changed to that European calendar. It's finally approved. Owners, approved this change that will be taking place. At season, guess it'd be 27, 28 when it be taking part. Um, what are your thoughts? I mean, obviously we've talked about this enough. I think that for the most part positive. But what are your thoughts, Manny, on this change coming in the near future for the MLS?
I think it's a good change. I think it's a really good change. I think I think when we first heard last year about the MLS owners voters that did not decide to make this an effect right after the World Cup. I think after that we were like, okay, all is lost at this point. But then they revisited and then they excited for this new campaign on the 2027 to 2028. So it's really good on that part. I think as you mentioned throughout the season, I think especially for teams like Houston, they're trying to get players, trying to compete. And Pat always says throughout the whole season, well, we're not in the calendar. We're trying to compete in the market when there's no market. So it's like it's very hard for these players that want to leave Europe or want to move somewhere else, but there's middle of the season and we're just beginning. So it's very hard for players to attract players and get players up started. But I think it's a really good change, a really needed change. I think it's I think we're going to dig deep in the calendar. We start in August and in December have that 2 month break. We have
Yeah,
to see.
that's gonna be interesting because obviously that's a break that we tend to see, especially like with the World Cup, right? I mean, that's gonna happen this coming year as well. So having those long extended breaks is odd, and seeing it in the summer is gonna be interesting. Personally, I hope they don't break it into clausura and apertura like we see, in Liga MX or in Argentina and
Mhm.
other leagues like that. I hope they keep it as the season long and keep the natural European style, even with that almost 2 month break that you speak of. And um, but then I was looking. I mean, right now, in December they won't be playing, even though they were kind of hyping it up. We'll have games in November and December. You really are playing maybe about this time of the year, right? In December, and
Yeah.
then that's pretty much it. And then you have a big gap. But when it comes to the point that you mentioned about, specifically Pan Onstad, and we'll touch a little bit more on the conversation that Dustin had with him last week that we hope you guys already listened to, and if not, big shout out to the interview that he did. I think very insightful. A lot of good information shared there, and again, we'll touch on it. But just the excuses must stop, if that makes sense, Manny. There's
Yeah.
really no excuses, right? You're talking about not just on the transfer aspect of it, which is a big deal, for sure, but also on the would the stadium be full? Would there be people there? Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Like there's so many excuses that are thrown out there of why the stadium is not full or why the team doesn't do as
Yeah.
good or why some transfers don't happen. I think if 27, 28 gets here and is same old Dynamo in that spectrum of which is basically touching every single spectrum there is around the club, then there's really no hope in my eyes to better the atmosphere and better the sporting side of the team. But again, time will tell for sure, Manny.
Yeah, I think the new schedule is going to benefit, of course, transfers as we always do. I think what was needed before is a DP slots because I feel like if you're trying to attract a player, like I said, mentioned that is the middle of their season to come to the MLS, you kind of will have to give them a DP slot if you're looking for a big player. Now you're entering a interesting time period. You're interested, which is which I was starting to think about. Now you're entering summer break when everyone's trying to look for contracts. So you can't negotiate prices. So you have to give the big contract or big money, cap. So now you can work with some players. And also another benefit, the 2 month break in the winter, you got to think about it as well. That's when the European winter transfer window is open. So imagine having that open during when you're not playing. So
True.
imagine
That's
having that
true.
open, and so you can have time for players to integrate a whole month and a half before you get back to play. So that's a new plus side. Even though it sucks that there's no game time, hopefully, maybe me being optimistic, have Leagues Cup maybe in a whole city in the South when it's like usually warmer, like in Houston, Austin,
Well, and that
Florida.
and that's another questionable thing that's going to eventually pop up. What's going to happen to Leagues Cup? Obviously, now we know more information on the 2026 schedule with fixtures, coming out, but nothing was talked about Leagues Cup. And so there is that 2 month off period that you talk about for the World Cup this 2026. But again, nothing really was mentioned about Leagues Cup or kind of how they're going to handle it. Obviously, US Open Cup is another tournament that the teams tend to compete in, which in theory it's a little bit more flexible than Leagues Cup tends to be, since Leagues Cup has gotten its whole little month, you know, I, I guess accommodation, if
Yeah.
that's the right word for it. But no, I think overall you hit a lot of the great information, because I agree with you. I think there's, as expected when this thing goes through, is there's definitely more pros and cons when it comes to this schedule change. And another thing that was moving on a little bit, money, another thing that was mentioned as well was the paywall behind MLS Pass. It's being getting rid of. As somebody that watches pretty much every game, I mean, I was getting it for free. You probably were as well, being a
Yeah.
season ticket holder. Now, if I had to pay it on myself, I would have find it difficult. I have friends and family that don't pay for it, or weren't paying for it, even if they were big fans of the Dynamo or any MLS team that they want to watch. So it's kind of nice, because now you only have to pay for Apple TV, which I was doing that, and now they're moving that for season ticket holders to get it. I don't know what I'm gonna do, man, because I have the whole cloud, the Apple One, so it's gonna be more
Yeah, the ecosystem.
problematic for myself. But this is another great thing, because now, yes, you still need Apple TV, but it makes it more accessible instead of paying an extra $15 a month, money.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you think about it really, like, who is in the Apple ecosystem, is a lot of European countries, South America countries, so you open yourself a lot more people that will already have the Apple TV service, because like you say, they have family plans, so it's much opener. So you're already past that paywall already. So now you're just gonna grab the people that maybe don't have that service with just buying that subscription just for that. And if you're a season ticket member, I heard that we it's been published by the Athletic that that they will be giving these Apple TV subscriptions for them, a complimentary. So it's really good. So I think it will open up to wider audience. Maybe not too much. I don't think it's gonna be a huge gap. Like, oh my God, it's like from 0 to 100, but at least it's gonna be much more accessible. So the only thing I wish is only if the options on it was more better this time. Well, I don't know how they're gonna do it. Like when you go on the drop menu and everything, sometimes not the first thing you see. Sometimes you have to look for it. So let's see how that improves in the actual interface. That's because now it's like included, so it could be. So it's just really how Apple
To make
does it.
it make it a
How.
little bit more visible. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, because right now you have to go sometimes to look for the MLS tab, and it's a little bit more difficult
But
having the
like,
MLS
but
pass.
like for instance, like if you have MLB, like for the when Apple does baseball, it literally is like the first thing you see. Is literally always, even if the game of the day of the game, like it will tell you Wednesday, Thursday, like, hey, we have MLB this and tonight. So I hope it does that so that it won't get lost.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, those are some big changes that I feel that it's like, man, come on, guys, this should have been a thing from a long time ago.
Hmm.
The MLS pass, it was a good attempt, but yeah, it was a little bit of like you're making it more difficult, as you mentioned. But another news that came out, and I mentioned it earlier, was the 2026 schedule is out. Um, so that means the Houston Dynamo open up the season against Chicago Fire on February 21st. That should be a good game. I mean, February 21st has kind of been the time to start. It seems like, money. It's always around 21st or 28th. I'm looking forward to it. If you guys are interested and you check out, I guess might as well plug in the BayouCitySoccer.net website. But Dustin did a really good article just to give you guys an idea of, well, it has obviously every single game, and we won't go through it right now just because. It's still wild. What 2 months away at this point? A little bit over 2 months. But he did mention some top 5 games to keep track of.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you are interested on Texas Derbies, March 21st will be at FC Dallas, April 25th at Austin FC, July 25th versus Austin FC, and October 17th against FC at FC Dallas. Is that right? That doesn't sound right. There's 2 at FC Dallas. Justin may have butchered that one
There's one.
unless
There's no.
yeah,
There's
October 17
October is the S.
it's yeah, it's versus Dallas. But I do like the fact that they're a little spread out. I feel sometimes the games were like within a month, they were already playing each other, even sometimes even a few weeks. So having a little bit of a spread
Yeah.
out and kind of towards the end of the season is much better. But the other game that he mentioned was the February 28 versus LAFC. Obviously, who doesn't want to see Son play? Sunny in the house, hopefully by then. Then you do have Mate 16 Vancouver Whitecaps, who obviously are right now gonna take on Inter Miami in the final, but Thomas Mueller should be a part of that. September 5th against Charlotte FC. If you're interested in seeing Wilfred Saha, if he's not out there fighting media personnel, as he tends to be. And October 28th. This one's an interesting one, Manny, because I find it really funny that it obviously I guess history tends to repeat itself. But in 2020, when the season came out or the schedule came out for that 2020 season,
Mhm.
they had Seattle and Portland as road games for the Houston Dynamo within a week, and it's happening again. And I'm excited because I've always said, I've been wanting to go to Seattle, I've been wanting to go to Portland, but I was like, what better excuse than to go see the Houston Dynamo and play in the Pacific Northwest? So they'll be taking on the Seattle Sounders on Wednesday, and then Sunday, November 1st, they'll be taking Portland Timbers. So I know the Surge and El Batallon and a bunch of the Hustle Town supporters tend to do traveling, or what do what do they call it? They don't call it traveling. They call it not road games, away games,
Away
away
days.
games. Yeah, because I was trying to remember the shirt that the make, but yeah, away games. So I would not be surprised if this is voted in as a Portland Timber and Seattle matchup up there, as I
Yeah.
mentioned in the Pacific Northwest. And then the last game that Dustin circled here is Decision Day, being November 7th against St. Louis City. Should be some fun games. Again, that's just 5, 6, I guess, if you want to, since he bundled in the Seattle and the Portland match there. But I mean, I think this just gets you a little bit more excited for the season to begin, man.
Yeah. I think yeah. I think my question to you, Rudy, I think it's while looking at the schedule, the first 2 months, March and April, okay, February, the two games, you face the toughest teams. You face, LAFC, Chicago, who's building up, Portland, Dallas, and Seattle, all within the first 2 months. But then the last 2 months of the season, you have Wednesday and Saturday games, Wednesday and Saturday games, Wednesday and Saturday games. We think it's a harder schedule for you, having a good start with a lot of the big hitters, or the heavy load you have the last 2 months of the season.
Yeah, I think you have to start well, right? I think that's exactly what we didn't see in 2025. I think they struggled in some games that they should have won from the very beginning, like against FC Dallas. Um, there's some games, especially at home, early in the season, that there are must win no matter what. Because if you're comparing, the all the teams are, even if they just won MLS Cup, hence LA Galaxy, they're all still brand new teams, brand new seasons. They're barely kind of getting that chemistry going once more. But if you don't capitalize specifically at home against those heavy hitters, or the teams, because I was trying to look it up, because I know that somewhere I saw that they were taking on like 12 playoff teams within, like you mentioned, the first few months. So it's important to get those big wins early in the season. And then yes, you're right. Eventually it's gonna be, playing 2 games a week. And it seems Ben Olsen tends to enjoy those type of weeks. So it's more of just taking advantage. But I think starting early and getting as many points as you can in the beginning of the season, I think is really what matters. And then it's MLS. You can kind of slack off a little bit in the middle of the season, and I think it's like anything, right? There's roller coasters, so like you can start really hot, then kind of like even out a little bit, and then eventually you need to get back up and be the hot team again, kind of like Vancouver was. Honestly, if you look at Vancouver's schedule this year, they did that. They were like the best team in the West pretty much for the first 3, 4 months, and then they kind of hit like a little
Wall.
they leveled, and then they brought this Thomas Mueller, and boom, it went back up again. And so, yeah, I think you just kind of be start off that way for sure. But again, it's great to see the roster, or sorry, the fixtures out there for the 2026 season. I think again it's exciting. It kind of gets everybody going off um on just getting ready and prepping. Jerta says, "Como que slacking off?" Yeah, I mean, honestly, they do kind of slack off at some point in the season. Some of
Well,
them
yeah,
just never. Some of them are always slacking off, but then there is times that it just seems like I think it's just how any season goes, to be honest.
yeah. I think especially when you have a long season like MLS, and plus you're not counting U.S. Open Cup, you're not counting other teams that are playing uh CONCACAF Champions Cup. Now, of course, the middle of the season you have the break with the World Cup and Leagues Cup. Of course, you're trying to balance everyone. So basically, you're gonna have a dip somewhere with injuries. That's
Yeah.
without counting injuries. So you're gonna have a dip somewhere. So it's gonna be natural, especially with a long fixture year.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's absolutely important to get started on the right foot, because that gives you a little bit of leeway when the dip does happen. As you mentioned, it could be injuries, it could just be unluck, or yeah, not being lucky in some games. But if you get started in the right direction, it goes a long way. We'll go through a few other news that kind of the club itself mentioned. No more SeatGeek for the Houston Dynamo FC, at least for the upcoming future. They're moving into Tixer. So if you're a season ticket holder, or you just buy tickets, every single I guess game match day, that is the way to go now. Tixer. I'm talking about Tixer. I don't know if they're still available. Oh, took it off. Let me see. I don't know if it's still available, but there is this Saturday. There is a World Cup kickoff event happening um, in Shell Energy Stadium, and the tickets, if available, you need to look through them on Tixer and add however many. I don't know if there's a cap if they are available or not, but they did announce later on. Well, I guess last week, that Luis El Matador Hernandez, a Mexican national legend, will be at this Houston soccer celebration kickoff. There's a lot of things happening. I think there's a locker room cell if you are a member. They also have, I think they'll be giving, I'm kind of reading here, first 500 beverages on us, off-season chalk talk, Dynamo holiday select a seat, a partnership fund. There'll be Verizon, a bunch of their partners will be out there, and yeah, they have a lot of things happening. Actually, man. Okay, I'm not gonna go through all of them, but
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a celebration
yeah.
for sure. So if you haven't gotten your ticket, see if they're still available. I highly recommend you make it out there. I was planning to be there, and I was so excited to be there. I won't be able to be there, so I'm kind of bummed. I do have 4 tickets to my name. If you want them, message us, and I'll pass them on if for some reason they're not available anymore. But I'm sure they are. Otherwise, they're all yours. Money, what are you planning to go out there? I know you're always excited for a fire sale, man.
I know, man. I always like to find a cheap jersey. Man, it's always my pet peeve of mine. I gotta find with the deals. Nah, but I think it's gonna be a good event. I see what the club has to offer the team. The crowd. I think just get them excited for the new season, and
Oh,
then
and to add,
of
obviously by
course also
then.
this event is also for the World Cup draw having.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. The World Cup draw being the day before, so I think it'll excite even more people. However, I think you nobody's gonna know who's coming to Houston yet or anywhere at this point, Manny.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. Even though they released a preliminary schedule before when we did the actual the host, who's hosting one games, but I think they changed that a little bit. So now we won't know until later on. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see. FIFA is all about the money. So we'll see how the draw is and see how it goes. But I think it's good to at least to see what the hype and hopefully I think just get the energy up because if you're energy about the World Cup, hopefully you can profit those people coming in for get more people to come in for the actual Dynamo season as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good way to market the team. At least try to. I know that I don't want to go. This is the grateful season of the year, right? So we're not gonna talk too much smack on things that are lacking in some part of the club that we all see, and hopefully they get fixed. But this event here is a way to propel that to get the team out there. Obviously, we know how big of a soccer city and the amount of soccer fans in Houston, but can they be turned into Houston Dynamo fans? I mean, that's something that it's been in talks for 20 plus seasons at this rate. So it's a good start to try to make it happen. um Manny, I was
Well,
gonna
I hope they tease it.
yeah, the DP.
I was like, I hope they tease the New Jersey. We'll see
Yeah.
what colors.
Oh, yes. That's true.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
there'd be a new away kit coming this season as well. Unless they change it altogether too. Who knows at this point? I went to add, oh yeah, so I have Brooklyn Reigns somewhere on here. There we go. Yeah, so the US Soccer Federation announced their slate of 2025 end of year awards. And in there, in the young male player of the year category, Brooklyn Reigns, it's a choice or a nominee that you can vote on. So you have, I think it was till December 12th, if I'm not mistaken, to vote for him. Yeah, Friday, December 12th. So if you're listening to this podcast live, go ahead, look for our link. I know Dustin put it on Twitter. If not, go on Instagram and you'll find it as there as well. Both for Brooklyn Reigns and other award nominees that you'll like, but the Houston Dynamo player that you'll find would be Brooklyn Reigns. He had a hell of a year, Manny. Anything you want to add on how much and how exciting of a year it was for Brooklyn Reigns?
I think he had a really good year in the Dynamo season, even though maybe I think he wasn't mostly the flashiest player in the midfielder, but he was very proactive in the passing range, getting the spaces that he needed to be. I think we always knew this in Brooklyn. He will uh, one day step up. I think this was the transitional year. Maybe it wasn't the final product, but you saw, okay, maybe next year we can load up on Brooklyn, load up on what he needed to do. And so I think it was really good. I think especially most you see it during in the international windows when he went off to US. I think that even propelled him even more compared to the age group he was in. I feel like during the age group with the United national team, I feel like he was years above everyone and more like a leader, a captain. And so I think in that area, that even propelled him more in the maturity he had with the group, and that actually transpired to. the actual Houston Dynamo team. So hopefully next year he could take another step, because if he wants to continue to get called for the U.S., he needs to step up a little bit more, and hopefully maybe not for this World Cup, but maybe for World Cup to moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a very talented young player. Obviously, his contract uh, this year ended with an option for the club. Obviously, they picked it up, which is smart. And not soon after that, it was rumored that there was a few European clubs interested in him. Obviously, no real I guess inquiries, just interest. But that's important because you can cash in on players like Brooklyn. Um, as you see him progress, as you mentioned, with the U.S. national team, the youth system, as well with the Dynamo. And as the season prolonged, he looked much looser and more of a veteran and experienced player. Not as stiff. Obviously, you can tell he's talented. And from conversations we've had off and on camera with some of the players, they've spoken very highly of him and how he is a gem, and so they believe in that. And obviously, those are players that are with Brooklyn on a day to day basis, and who knows if he's gives them $20 to say that, but no, it's absolutely true that we do see the talent that he has. So he has another year, maybe half a year. I think would be the best thing for him to be gone by the summer. For the Dynamo to be able to catch in on him, and I just let him walk for free unless they work out another type of Jack McGlynn contract to increase his value as suitors come by knocking for him money. Um, I guess that touches us a little bit on a lot of the things that Pat Onstad mentioned in the interview that Dustin had with him last week. Um, we're not gonna sit here and dissect everything that was said in that interview. We are not that type of podcast. I know that there's a few podcasts that tend to dissect a lot of interviews and just voices. I would highly encourage you guys, if you have not listened. I know it's been we're off season, and unless you listen to us live here on this stream or Orange and Blueprints on either YouTube or Twitter, obviously this didn't come live in those feeds, but it did come live on YouTube specifically. And if you have not seen it, again, I encourage you to listen to it. There's a lot of things that were mentioned, and Pat Onson's a guy that no matter what, I feel very candid in a lot of things that he says. There's a lot of things that you're like, oh, is it a little backtracking? I mean, hindsight 2020, everything can definitely be taken out of context. Two things, I guess. Manny, did you get to listen to it before I go on and ask you questions? Did you get a chance to listen to it? I know, again, it was during the holidays, so I don't know.
I get to listen partially of it, not all of it. I was like in a halfway point, but I think it was really good stuff that Pat mentioned about a lot of things. I think especially when Dustin asked him about the if they rely too much on the youth. I think his answer was really good on that. You kind of want to build for the future and trying to focus on the U22s, because you of course you want to save. Okay, at the end of the day, you got to think about it. MLS, it's a cap league. You're financially, so if you trying to rely on the younger you and try to hit on them, end up saving more on the roster and try to experience that. But of course, you know, sometimes it's better off, just find some potential. I like he mentioned about Linger, about he's too, a good player to add for the team for this youth squad. And I think it's very, I think, some lessons were learned, and some lessons, okay, can we do better for this team to be successful now, but
Yeah.
also for the future. So I think, if you're, technical directors in Europe or general managers here in MLS, it's not an easy job. I think MLS makes it harder, and as the GM, you have to be creative. you have to find the solutions and try to fit everything in the paycheck and the balances, but yet have a good product and have a good future for the future.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it is tough, and I think the rules and regulations in the MLS make it so everybody stays competitive, right? There's gonna be teams that are gonna be very good and then take a dip and kind of disappear for a couple seasons and then come back and so forth. Now, the clubs that get it right usually is because they're so proactive and not reactive. And I think that's something that we've learned to I mean, we've learning that the Dynamo last year showed that they're very reactive, right? They weren't proactive in taking care of pieces behind Hector Herrera, behind Coco Carrasquilla, behind even like Steve Clark, maybe, and Mikael, definitely, and just injuries and stuff like that. And a lot of it was let's try to patch it up. But I will say, with the realization that sometimes you're in a hole that you can't really dig yourself out of, and it's not worth throwing a bunch of money and long contracts that kind of screw you for years to come. So, and that's something that they didn't do. So because of that, you have a lot of GAM money available. Yeah, I think it's over 3 million. I think they're like top three. When it comes to that type of funds for next
I
year.
think that I think they're top.
Yeah, there. I think there were like one or two towards the end. So, oh, and actually, you're right. They are because another thing that was mentioned was about Pablo Ortiz likely not coming back, and same thing with Bassi. His time has sell with the Houston Dynamo, and so that frees up a lot, especially with since he was under contract. I think he was making close to like $1 million. So it opens a big cap space that you can play with and look for something better out there that creates more goals, more assists, something that was obviously asked for Ami Bassi, and he delivered year one. 8 goals were purely on penalties out of like the 10 he scored, but we saw a massive decay on that. Like the progress never, it never went anywhere. So you stuck you were, I guess, married to him for 3 years, 3 seasons, but now it's time to move on, try to redevelop everything. And yeah, it was interesting. And so you mentioned that, and I'm going to touch on one last one. It looks like for this year, Pat Onstad and like the front office are looking to the 3DP 3U22 system. So that's important there to note. If you look at the roster currently, Ponce and Andre Lingard are considered DPs. But from the very beginning, we were told and reassured that Lingard can be bought down to just be a roster spot. Therefore, in theory, there are 2 DP spots. And from that chat with Pat, he mentioned that they were sure there's 2 DP spots, and it looks like they do have a DP incoming, hopefully in a week or two of being announced, which would make sense. That would be close to when the transfer window opens up for MLS. So it's good to see. Again, roster building needs to be quick, and I understand people are like, man, you need to get this guy before January. But guys, I have news for you. Not every transfer window's open, so they can't just magically appear here. You kind of have to follow those rules. Um, I Manny, I'll let you speak on that. I do see Cristian Putalia saying the boys are back. Yes, we are back. We miss you, Chris. I miss my boy Chris, man. I haven't talked to him in like 2 months, I think, because the times that he was on the podcast, I was out of town or I was sick. So Christian, we need to hang out, buddy. We need to hang out. Nathan says hello. Welcome, Nathan, to the podcast. We picked up quite a few viewers, man. We kind of were at like 50 money, and then it's gone to like 70 and 80. It's just right there on this late night episode, about 40 minutes in, man. But yeah,
I
just
think
your thoughts to finish
I
up the
think every,
Pat Onstad stuff.
now I was about to say I think everyone wants to hear more Dynamo news, soccer news. They're like, okay, we're done of Messi and everyone. What about the Dynamo? I think no, I think it's a good insight of what Pat is trying to do. I think, two DPs, if you realistically can buy down Lingard, it's gonna save you, bring you more firepower to come in for the DP end. So it just and their AQ shows just how proactive they are. Having DP and coming in and wanting to get buy down Lingard, even though they get buy down Lingard before the season starts. It's a lot of, I think they're just trying to do best they can, and so hopefully they learn their mistakes, and it looks like they are. It's just too early to tell. You don't know what type of player they're bringing in, for sure, for sure. So it's like you're kind of guessing. Hopefully, so attacking position could be a midfield position. So we don't know. We don't know. I think so many players were let go, and so you're kind of like seeing, okay, what holes needs to be priority to be filled, and see from there where the team's being constructed and how
Yeah.
Ben wants to play as well.
Yeah, and I think it was very Pat made it pretty clear that if they could only pick one, it's a center back. I don't think I mean, I don't know. It's rare that an MLS team uses a DP for a center back. It has happened. I think New York F City, Thiago Martins is the one that I can think of from the bat, and he worked out. They got an MLS Cup out of him, if I'm not mistaken. But there's
Yeah.
there's some guys that they're planning to bring 4 to 5 you know impactful players, and they're hoping 3 of those guys are starters. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but I think the Dynamo weren't necessarily way off last year. It just the issues they ran into was the fact that the very important positions weren't filled, and you had players very inexperienced or players that just didn't grow in the center back position, that just really hurt you in the long run. And then if you want to in the attacking side, there wasn't really a number 10 that everybody loves to touch on, or a winger, somebody that could just carry that ball up the field and create goals and assists. So I think they know exactly what they need. I think we all know exactly what they need. And I do find it funny to hear a lot of fans being like, oh, why did they let go of Femi, or why did they let go of Pablo Ortiz? Dude, you look at those stats, you look at how they played, man. I don't know how you vouch for players like that. I think the players that needed to go are gone, and the players that, even though a lot of people enjoyed having, like Amin Bassi or Kovalchik, I think it was time to move on. I think it was like you knew who they were, and it didn't hit right on what you were looking for, so it was time to move on. So personally, I just think things were are now. You should be optimistic, because there is so much wiggle room to improve this team and get it back into not just a playoff team. I don't think it's um it people are like, oh well, you just want it to be a playoff team, right? That's one thing you hear a lot of. But I mean, you gotta get them into the playoffs to get a shot at an MLS Cup. So yes, you do need to make it into the playoffs for sure, but you want a team that can compete from all the trophies and tournaments that the Dynamo are a part of. And last year it was very evident that they were trying to go all in on MLS Cup and kind of neglect the other tournaments. But it backfired just because the quality wasn't there, money.
Yeah, it was. I think with Pablo Ortiz and Femi, like they had games that they shined, but the problem was that it was so inconsistent. Or at that moments they shined, that was literally the highest points of of their time here in the Dynamo, and everything else was down here from there. And with players like like Seba Kovalchik, he was good, but then he was just good and what he was good at, and things that the team needed. So I think we appreciate what they did. Maybe not for Pablo Ortiz and Femi. I think just helping them just not to have no one in the back, but just for what they came in and just we needed a team. But it was good. Nothing to be like, oh my god, we need them back. But I think we're just trying to look for better. That's what we need for this team. And so it's just trying to look move forward. We need to, of course, we need to fill those positions. Maybe a good competitive player that can maybe test the starting 11. So always you're trying to look for better options. That's the thing as well. Like recent news with the Dash. Ryan Garrett's left. She had a good season this year, but you try to look for better players. And that's this business. It's all about not about sentiment or anything. You're just trying to find better
Yeah.
players, and so sometimes you
And
just gotta
even
move
when
on.
and even if it's a team that won, there's always players that have to leave, and new players to come in, even after winning an MLS Cup or a US Open Cup or whatever. Like, it's just a part of it. It's really rare. Actually, it never happens that, the same roster that ended a season comes in exactly the same next season. It's just impossible. But, whenever you do have a bad season, a disappointing season like the Dynamo have, some of the players that are borderline, like, oh man, this guy is so. You have to, you can't, you don't want to be just good or okay. You want to be great. So you have to make those tough decisions. And something that we weren't great at, Manny, and we have been very fantastic to be fair in our predictions. We were terrible this year, brother. We were just absolutely terrible. We touched on the Dynamo ones last episode, so I definitely don't want to go and relive it again. But now, again, knowing that the final is set for MLS Cup, Vancouver taking on Miami should be a fun game. I think they're gonna, blow it up out of proportion because Messi's there and he's close to winning a trophy. And then they'll have Thomas Mueller, playing and showing pictures from that 2014 World Cup that him and Germany stole that trophy from Messi. So it should be an interesting. Personally, I'll do my best to watch
Don't
it.
tell Chris.
Yeah, for real. Don't tell Chris. Um, personally, I honestly, my heart wants like a new team to win, so I would love to see Vancouver win, and I know Miami hasn't won one either, and so it doesn't really matter. It's gonna be a first time winner, but I'm also like I've been a fan of Messi just because he played in the Barcelona team that I follow and all this, and if he's the greatest in the world to ever play, apart from everybody that claims Cristiano to be that. That rivalry continues on. So obviously, the guy winning as many trophies, elsewhere would be cool. I don't know. There's also a lot of those Inter Miami fans in quotations because all they do is follow Messi. But it's gonna be an interesting one for sure. And man, honestly, it's gonna be difficult for me to watch that game since I'm gonna be out of town. I'm gonna try to do my best. I'm gonna try to do my best. Um, what's your prediction on that? I didn't say mine, but what's your prediction or who do you want to win that match, Manny?
I think Miami will win. I don't think it'll be a comfortable win. I think it's gonna be a nail biter game because I think it's gonna be high scoring. Both teams are just excellent in what they do. Both teams are just very explosive. So it's very. I don't think defense is not going to be the key for this game. I think who's the main point is who's going to outscore who, and I think the way how Miami is clicking, I think it's just you see just a lot of components of players that can contribute. While Vancouver, I feel like you rely on Bellhalter, White, and Mueller to do something. And that's just not that may be me underselling things, but I feel like if those three are not clicking, it's very the other team just lacks the quality to counterpack. While Miami is like everyone's very interactive, even the older players, Busquets, Alba, Rodrigo de Paul. So it's like a lot of players. I just can't not see Miami not winning this.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be like at least a 3-2 win.
Yeah, you're speaking into existence this high scoring match, and with the way that we predict this stuff this season, man, it's gonna be like a 0-0 draw, and it's gonna go to penalties. That's that's how it's gonna go.
Penalties.
But we'll give everybody a laugh and just go through our predictions that we had in the very beginning of the season. I think we pulled us up like the first week of February. I think it was still preseason. I'm glad you're here, Manny. So it's just not me getting laughed at, but we predicted who wins the Supporter Shield. I picked Seattle Sounders. Clearly not happened. Joey hit Atlanta United, who did terrible. Manny and Dustin and David all picked Inter Miami, and then Christian Putalias with the San Jose Earthquakes. Man, ugh, ugh, that looks ugly. MLS Cup. At one point I felt good because everybody at least okay, I'll go through it. I picked Seattle Sounders, Joey picked Cincinnati, Manny, you picked Chicago Fire, Dustin picked Cincinnati as well, Christian, another one in love with Chicago Fire, and David hit LAFC. I felt good when the playoffs started because all these teams made the playoffs at least. So it's like, hey, we weren't that far off. But nobody wanted to go with the Inter Miami pick. I think we always try to stay away because we were like, it seems like the Thanos effect, right? The inevitable, basically with Messi and friends. The London Donovan MLS MVP award. I don't think it's been given yet, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if it has, or has it?
No,
Maybe,
it
maybe.
hasn't. It
Not
hasn't. It
yet, right?
hasn't.
It's after the MLS Cup. I picked Gabriel Peg. I was hoping that he had like a really good year, being the only guy in LA Galaxy, but that disappointed. Joey hit the Lionel Messi fandom. He's probably gonna end up getting it, honestly. So he has a good shot here. Manny, you hit Boanga, another guy that could possibly get it, even though he was outshined by Sonny towards the end of the season. Edvander for Cincinnati, another a good shout. Christian with Miguel Almiron and Atlanta United. That one looks ugly. And then same thing, David with Lionel Messi and Inter Miami. So they still have a chance for that MVP award. As far as the Golden Boot, I hit everybody with Ezequiel Ponce, believing that he was finally going to be fed in front of goal. The guy ended with 10 goals, which is about 3 times less of what basically the winner had. Joey hit Peter Musa. Manny and Dustin, both of you had Luis Suarez. Christian hit with the very expensive transfer of Emmanuel Latelat from Atlanta United, who was a bust. And David, the only one with Lionel Messi. So look at that. The Argentinian, right? One of the Argentinians seems to stick with its Argentinians friends. Now this one is the funniest one, man, because we always try to do this MLS bold predictions, and we have to go crazy. I think it's when we hit those, it's like whatever comes to mind first. And my brain told me, LAFC has been so great, they're gonna miss the playoffs because they have in the past. It's not like a shocker; it has happened. But no, I mean, they had another fantastic season. And again, Sony helped them. But Joey picking Vancouver to win the wooden spoon takes it, man. I mean, look at Vancouver, close to, lifting an MLS Cup. And Joey out here picking them as the worst team in MLS. Isn't that hilarious, Money?
Yeah, I think that was just the like. I think no one expected. I think no one expected Vancouver to sign Thomas Muller. But no one expected for Vancouver to have the season they had. Just players that shine up, like we mentioned Brian White and also Sebastian Berhalter, who was
Bro.
having some phenomenal season.
And funny, and they let
Yeah,
go of
it
a
just
bunch of players in the middle of the season. Remember, they sold a guy to Pumas. They sold like a bunch of guys that they're like, dude, they're their
yeah.
best players, and they're obviously like winning a bunch of games in the beginning of the season. And you're like, what are they doing? Like, selling all this really good players, and it worked out. They again, I know we mentioned it earlier, Jay, but they went on a little bit of a tumble for about a month, and then I don't think they had one for like a month or even score a goal, and then out of nowhere, even with injuries to like Brian White and some of the other guys out there that were really no names before Mueller came into the picture. But I mean, that's all you need, right? I mean, that's 101 Houston Dynamo 2006, 2007, basically, like no names, just ready to you know, get their hands dirty for sure. Manny, you picked Chicago and San Jose to be MLS contenders. San Jose let you down. Chicago with Greg Berhalter at least made the playoffs. And what seems, I don't know, it was what, 5 years? It was a while. I remember seeing
It's been
that.
a while.
Yeah, they hadn't made it to the playoffs. And then Dustin, this one's just crazy one because we all know, like, do we know some insider information? Yes. But this one, I don't know where Dustin got from, but he's put MLS announces a switch to the Euro calendar after this season. People, he said this back in like early February. All right, if anybody needs some good luck or numbers to the lottery ticket, the winning lottery ticket, go ask Dustin. Go get him. Um, Christian also had love for both San Jose and Chicago. He said their both prediction was that they win each conference. That was not close. Against San Jose, didn't make the playoffs, and Chicago clawed themselves into the playoffs. And then David, he got it right as well, saying San Diego, the new team in MLS would make the playoffs, and what a season they had. Obviously, falling short um, to Vancouver, but man, honestly, they did not disappoint of how good they really were, Manny. Those predictions are fun, right? I mean, you look now and you're like, what an idiot I was.
Nah, I think I think you try. It's hard. It's hard because you try. I think it's not like the Premier League or the La Liga that you the main core stays next season. I feel like MLS, like half the team leaves and like have new half comes in. So you're trying to figure out. Okay, you're trying to figure out history. Okay, who has the better culture? Who has the better system? But like, half the time, that's not even the case. It's just like whoever beats this team that day is like pretty much like will have a run. And it's like, okay, you try to figure things out. And it's like it's very hard. It's very especially MLS to get predictions right. I think the one of the hardest leagues to get something 100% right or 100% on the ball because it's just no matter what, it's so fluent and so many games, so many players leaving, so players coming in. So it's very hard to predict anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who would have said that, LA Galaxy was going to be the worst team, in the league for a bunch of the season, right? With all the injuries and you talk about salary cap affecting them. They were one of the teams that got hammered by the salary cap. They had to made all kinds of trades and they find themselves in a hole. And so it happens for sure, man. But that honestly wraps the 2025 season as a whole. We're never gonna come back and mention any of this bold prediction that we clearly did not hit, or most of us didn't hit, except for Dustin again and Joey and David and stuff like that. But um, this again, I mentioned that this was supposed to be recorded last week and then on Monday, but with still kind of the spirit of Thanksgiving, man. I think it's just important to let you guys, the listeners, the readers, let you guys know how grateful we are for your support. I know that a bunch of you guys are members of our community, and you give and support for us to continue doing what we're doing. Nobody here takes a salary. All the influx of donations that come in are really to just pay for all our, uh, I guess, content creations and outlets that we have to pay for, and whether it be our website or streaming services like with StreamYard, stuff like that. Uh, and if it's something that you've been on the fence about, I know that um, we ourselves see it as people that cover the teams. I know Manny spends a lot of his time covering the Houston Dash and helping us out, continue to grow the women's sport here in the city of Houston. Again, myself and the rest of the guys obviously do it as well for the Dynamo and for Dynamo 2 and getting as much information out there. And I know that you guys are hungry to find this information because we were all on that boat, right, Manny? We were always the fan trying to get as much information about our teams, about kind of what's happening, whether it be transfer rumors, whether it be this, whether it be that. Who doesn't remember a Lester bomb, man? Lester bombs used to be the funnest thing ever. Having the notification click for Lester back in the day. But you know, we we really appreciate you guys' support. I know this community continues to grow, and it's gonna be a blast in 2026 with the Houston team, with the World Cup coming in. We definitely grateful for our friends at Ugly Guppy. Again, they do a fantastic job with all their products and obviously the gear that they make for us so that we can show Bayou City Soccer around the city and the things we wear. Obviously, we are really thankful for elotes bravos. And dude, I was telling my wife, Manny, that I really wanted an elote, and there is a place near my house, and I won't mention the name, but I was like, man, there's nothing like elotes bravos now. Like they're the real thing. So uh I know you're a
No,
big fan too.
yeah.
It's difficult. But and then obviously our friends too at We Got Soccer, man. Ruben has been fantastic. I mean, since we made contact with them, grateful for the opportunity of having us at their store and have live podcasts from there. Obviously, having guys and staff from the Dynamo and the Dash out there has been great. It was great to see the TUDN shop and Liga and Mexican national team store now being a part of it, and the legends that they have for the national team. And I know that they had Jack and Griffin out there as well a few weeks back. So uh really really fun stuff, and really grateful for that opportunity, and personally having that interaction with you guys as well. It's great, and you guys being my guys, like Manny, I've known Manny what 4 years now, Manny. And we're friends, we're family, man. Like we try to keep in everyone's life. Same thing with Christian, with Dustin. There's way too many to I guess name specifically, but this side of Bayou City Soccer is fantastic, but the community that we're making on the other side as well, man. Thank you guys for always, being a part of the. I know people hate it, and I know Christian's gonna get crap, but the Bayou banter is always popping. Yay, Hurtado, all the guys that kind of pop up. We missed Jeff today, so I do remember Jeff tends to always join us as well. But really grateful for everything that you guys do. Manny, anything that you specifically want to touch on? I mean, I know this is in the Orange and Blueprints, but you do have a podcast, and you have a lot of listeners as well there. But anything that you want to say to the supporters out there of Bayou City Soccer?
No, I think it's very just thankful for a lot of everyone for just supporting us. It's very, I think, you don't know where our direction's going. We just hopefully to do our best to cover the teams, either the Houston Dynamo or Houston Dash. I think we're just trying to transmit what we feel to all the fans, appeal to all the fans, and just have, I think, just a very, like of every interesting viewpoints that we want to share, because I think as everyone, we just try. The main thing is just we want to talk about our teams. We want to talk about get your opinion and have more interactive. And I think the more time you spend with the people who love your teams, it just you close grow to each other. You care about each other. It becomes more of a family. That's the beautiful about soccer and the sport. You get close to the people you have common with, and just be there for each other. And so it's really great to have this platform to reach out for everyone and be grateful just for to have spend another week with y'all and just and talk with the teams that we love, and hopefully help us not give us headaches and migraines about when they're losing, but just celebrate all the wins and all the good moments that we have with each other. So we look forward for that for the next year, and so hopefully we have more of those high moments with each other.
Yeah, well said, man. Well said. I try not to like hold back the tears, a little bit. No, I'm kidding. But no, yeah, you hit the nail on the head, man. I think it's all about community. It's all about getting the information out there. And as fans, right, we jump on this, or we write articles, and we try to be, or we do a good job of kind of keeping our fandom hidden. But if you do want to, again, be a part of the community, and I know it's quite small right now, in consideration, like even our group chat per se, but then, like, if you want to see like how much we bleed Houston and how much we bleed, obviously, Orange with the teams, I recommend if it's something that you want to do and give and support of Bayou City Soccer, whether it be a monthly donation or a year donation, man, do it. You won't regret it, and we hope that it continues to grow in 2026, and more, more and better things to come for sure, Manny, for both the Bayou City Soccer podcast, as well as the Orange and Blueprints podcast, and even Movimiento Naranja. We'll give, David had been a hiatus for a little bit, but that will definitely be coming back as we continue to grow. And just grateful for all the people that have joined us in the, behind the scenes, whether it be all the photographs or photographers like Ricky Vega. I mean, the guy joined us in the beginning of the year. I think his life has changed. Go follow him on social media, guys. I mean, you see where this cat is going, and he joined just Bayou City, like on Bayou City Soccer on a limb, and we let you kind of bloom here, and I think that's kind of what's happened. People are kind of like very like quiet in their shell, man. They open up and they hit their creative side, and it's been fun to see. Obviously, Manny, you taking over the podcast. I know that you probably don't enjoy talking as much, but I feel like you bloom and grown way more now as well in front of the camera, in front of the recording, along Diego. I always give Diego props. I mean, that kid is like very young, and he speaks so well in the way that he just puts the information out there. He does a really fantastic job. So I believe that Orange and Blueprints is going to continue to grow for you guys as well. And of course, Christian, Dustin, Joey. I know Joey's been busy with life, trying to become a rock star lately. So he's been kind of, he asked us, hey, you mind if I step back a little bit? We can do that. We were able to do that, and it is so fun just coming in here for the month and a half. Personally, I've been just working in my life to just kind of get all the areas of my life, whether it be physical, spiritual, basically everything. Just trying to take time to work on that, but it's so fun and rewarding to come in here and be able to just talk to you guys, and hopefully you guys have as much fun listening to us as we think we are, right, Money?
Yeah,
It's like we feel like
yeah,
we're
we
having a
do,
lot of
we do.
fun.
I think we
Hopefully
just
you guys are having it too, man. Um, but yeah, so with that being said, man, Manny, thank you once again for joining us. Do you guys do you want to give people a shout out, invite them to buy Orange and Blueprints? If you, I'm hoping you guys are taking a break, man. I know there is some Dash news, but I hope you guys are taking a break for your
no,
own sanity.
no. I think that's pretty much it. I think we are taking a break at the moment, so there's no other than just the Brian Garris news. But I think there's nothing much at the end of the week. So I think more information will come out next month. And so right now, it's just pretty much just basically just on vacation mode at the moment until major news, either from the dash or from the end on the league itself. But we always try to do our best on Wednesdays. So please come up and listen to us whenever you're all good. But we enjoy every talking either here at Dynamo or Dash. So it's pretty much great to talk to everyone. So please come over and hopefully next month we get back rolling again.
Absolutely. And I would say I'll see you guys next week, but this is a day to day being the off season. So if we don't come back next week, maybe next week. But I know Christian Putellas is dying to talk something. I know he's dying to talk. So we may be back. Hopefully, you guys have a fantastic night. Thanks again for joining us here at the Bayou City Soccer and Podcast. We'll see you when we see you. Peace.